The first group of people that I came out to was my high school GSA, and the advisor of that club just happened to be the high school guidance counselor. So I was always able to talk to him about that without having this like awkward coming out talk. So he always helped me with all the logistics of high school. Like I could ask him what I'd had to do to get my name changed in the yearbook, what I had to do to wear a tux for the senior pictures. The biggest thing I ever came to him about was how I was going to graduate from high school. Because as I mentioned in a previous video, at my school there are two colors for graduation. The boys wear these dark blue gowns, this color, and the girls wear a silver color. And I knew that I could not walk down in a silver robe. That would just be the most embarrassing event in my entire high school career, and it would be really awful to end on that note. And also to get my diploma changed to my preferred name, which was going to be my legal name by that point. And so I just had to ask him like how to do everything, and he assured me that it wouldn't be a problem, that all of that would be fine. He just said that I needed to talk to other people to get it to happen, that he was not the authority on that. He told me I had to talk to the assistant principal. So I made an appointment and I went down there figuring it would be this easy thing, that the hardest part was just me getting the nerves to tell her about the situation, and I feared it would all be downhill from there. She was already clued in on what the conversation was about because my guidance counselor kind of prepared her for it, and she knew I was coming. She was expecting me, and so I told her everything I could about the situation, and then asked her what I had to do to get my diploma changed and to wear the blue robe. And she didn't really respond to anything I sat there and said for the past like 15 minutes about how long I was transitioning and, you know, how I went through therapy and all of this. She didn't really comment on any of that. She kind of like nodded, and then she just kind of said this really ingenuine spiel about how she completely supported me and that she had no problem with what I was doing, but she wanted to set up an appointment with my parents. So I was like, okay, I guess she just wants to make sure that they are on board with this, which they were, and so we set up a meeting. When I told my parents about the meeting, they were both kind of annoyed, especially my dad, because he was not really interested in attending a meeting. I mean, he'd already given me permission to do it, so he didn't really want to be involved in it anymore. And, you know, he gets home late from work, and he would have to come back early from work and go to this meeting. And not only that, but my mom was really sick, and she couldn't walk anymore, and she didn't need to be going to meetings. And I asked if I could just bring one parent, and they were like, she was like, no, we need both parents. So I didn't see why it was that important, but so we both, all three of us had to go, my mom, my dad, and I, and we got there, and she like sat us all down, and she went through the whole thing again about how she supports me and how she understands, which she didn't, but she went through all of that, and my dad was kind of just like waiting for her to get to the point, ready to leave, and and she said no, that I couldn't do any of it. It was a tradition that I couldn't, you know, interfere with. She thought that people would harass me and that it would ruin everybody's graduation. But then she like saved herself and said, oh, but it will ruin your graduation if you get harassed. I'm like, no, it'll ruin my graduation if I have to embarrass myself in front of 500 people, 500 classmates, and then hundreds of other people, family members, everybody seeing me in that state that I don't want to be seen in. That would ruin my graduation, not someone hassling me, and that really no one would do that in my school, and she knew that. So there was that, but then the reason that really made me kind of annoyed, and my dad kind of annoyed, and my mom kind of annoyed, was when she said that one of the big reasons for her not letting me do this is that it would set a precedence. Now, a precedence is when, like, if I would do that, then other people would assume that it's okay to do that. But the thing is, that's kind of what I'm trying to do, is make it so other people know that it is okay to do that, and that's exactly what she didn't want. She kept on saying, you know, if you do this, other people are going to want to do this. And I was like, yeah, if they want to do this, then seeing me do it should be really helpful for them. But she just kept on, you know, she went right over her head. She didn't respond to me ever. She just kept on going with her own thing, and she'd say something about how, you know, some guy would want to walk down as like a girl because he felt like a girl, but it was all a joke. And my dad kind of like butted, and he was like, don't you think that if somebody was doing it as a joke, you'd be able to tell? And then he just like went off, and he was like, you know, Val has gone through the therapy, he's been living as male in school for 2 years, more than 2 years, and you think that this is a joke, and you really think it's going to be that disturbing? And I think he even said something about how if I went down as a girl, that would get me some harassment, because, you know, this shouldn't, I mean, if I did want to go down as a girl, that shouldn't be a problem either. But my dad was just saying, you know, I would get as much harassment at going down as a girl looking like this as I would going down as a boy that wasn't really a boy. She did have good news, though. She thought that it would be this like great comfort to me that would just like make me leave the place smiling. When she told me this, she said that I would be able to wear men's clothing if I wanted to. And that wasn't even a question. I wear men's clothing to school, I wear it to dances. I didn't even consider that being an issue at graduation. But she thought that I didn't know that, but I did. And she then went on to explain that the school that she used to work at had a very strict dress code when it came to graduation, and that all girls must wear a skirt or a dress and high heels, and all boys must wear slacks and a button-up and a tie. And I told her that I wasn't concerned about that. I was going to wear what I wanted to wear. That wasn't even a question. And, well, she was just like, oh, well, you can do that. And I was like, okay, so I can't do any of the other things that I want. And she was like, well, I just don't think it was a good idea. So me and my parents kind of argued for a while against her, saying how her, like, why her reasons really didn't hold any truth. And, I mean, obviously we weren't getting anywhere. She said, I'm not going to change my decision, and she kind of, like, ended the meeting. And I thought that was it, that I was done for. And, as embarrassing as it is to admit, I think I did tear up a little bit, and I think that's why, that's finally when my dad figured out that it really, really bothered me. And my mom, I mean, she saw that too, and who knows how seriously she took me before, but she was, like, saying in the car how she, how she would fight the school on it. And how she was going to tell the principal that if they didn't let me do what I wanted to do, that she was going to that she was going to tell all the newspapers and make it this big media event, and that if they didn't want to cause commotion at the graduation, which was, you know, part of her reasoning for me not doing what I was doing, that she was going to cause a big commotion with all this media and blah, blah, blah. And, she couldn't actually do that. She was just trying to make me feel better, but my dad said that he would try and, help it along too, and that it wasn't over, and that they were gonna get what I wanted. But so the next step was to talk to my principal, the actual principal, not the assistant principal, and I went right to her, and she got an email, and God dang it, I'm sorry. She got the email from my mom, saying all this ridiculous stuff, and she could tell that my parents were, all up in arms about it, and she's a completely different person than the assistant principal. I went right in there, she shook my hand, and, she didn't use any pronouns, because she was probably as confused as anybody would be who didn't really know anything about it, but at the same time, she was very accepting, and she just said, I don't see a problem with this or what you're doing, and we're just going to do it for you. All you have to do is give us the papers to show us that you're, working towards legally changing your name, and that the robes, they're just not a big deal at all. She's like, why would I say no to that? And that was the end of it. I should have went to the principal to begin with, because she just let me do it. No questions asked. Well, some questions, but nothing big. And in fact, she went on to say, she didn't want that problem for any other student, and that all of the county schools for the following year should all change to one color so that they wouldn't have that problem. And sure enough, all of the schools in the county next year are going to one color gown. So for the actual graduation, they are seated, to make it look pretty, it's seated boy, girl, etc. So the colors are all like checkered and everything. And I was glad about that, just because maybe I shouldn't say it, but it's probably true, that girls are just more accepting of, everything in the world. So I thought that sitting next to two girls would be, have a lot higher of a chance of me sitting next to people who didn't give a crap than if I sat next to two guys, which might have been an irrational fear, but it was two girls, and I knew one of them. I was friends with one of them, so that was good, because you can't pick. And I got to have a male marching partner, because I was with the males, and they got my name right on everything. Not a single person ever hassled me. A lot of people, they said, hey, I like your shirt, or, like, they commented on my existence, but not that I was doing anything out of the ordinary, except for, like, my really close friends. I would just come up and be like, oh, I'm so excited for you. But that was fun. And my brother and my family came to my graduation, and, they were all excited that I got what I wanted to. But we had 7 tickets, and, for me to invite people, and we ended up with an extra ticket, because my mom never made it to the didn't make it. Graduation was June 3rd, and she passed away on May 23rd. But I think she would have been happy. So that's the story of how I graduated. See you later.